Okay, so Lydia Rice, pleasure to meet you. Some of the accolades you've achieved so far in your career is amazing, especially at the age of 16. Such a pleasure to meet you. Please, tell me about your, what you've achieved, how it all started. Let me also introduce Mark Rice, your dad, and also we've got Hannah Reid, a school games organizer, and Owen Lamprey from Clifton Primary School, but also a league practitioner in health and wellbeing. So, Lily, over to you. Thank you so much. Please tell me about your story and how it all started.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be speaking on here today. So, like I've said, I'm Lily Rice. I'm 16 years old, and I'm currently the Women's WCMX World Champion. Now, WCMX stands for Wheelchair Motocross, and it's basically riding a wheelchair on a skate park. So I adapt all my tricks from BMX riders, skateboarders, and other riders. I see what they're doing and then try those tricks out on my wheelchair. I've been riding for about 3 years now, and it's been a pretty crazy journey the whole time.
Wow. I mean, what was it like to be the first female in Europe to do a wheelchair backflip?
It was absolutely crazy to land a backflip and then have the title of the first female in Europe and the second female in the world to do it. I didn't quite know what I got myself into when I started riding. So when I did this, I was pretty amazed because I've been doing some research and I found out that there's only one other girl that's done it in the world. And if I was to land it, I would have that title. And that was absolutely amazing. I think that drove me to do it harder, and I actually landed the backflip within 6 hours.
Wow. I mean, talking about how you started, and we look at Aaron Fosingham, who pioneered wheelchair motocross. For you, I mean, what was the first time you actually went out to a skate park and thought about, am I gonna try this? It's something that I'm really passionate about. I mean, you say you researched it, but I mean, how did you feel?
It was like an evolution. Lily had an NHS chair and she didn't like using it, didn't want to be seen in it, but it kind of coincided with going up to secondary school. And that's kind of a lot of, yourselves when we were there, you feel kind of grown up when you go to secondary school, don't you? You're given a bit of freedom, catch the bus, that kind of thing. And I think kind of the chair back then was kind of seen as a push chair again, maybe from Lily's point of view. It had handles on the back, and she didn't really want to be seen much in it. It was okay if we went around shopping centres or places where her friends wouldn't see her, but she struggled to school with her AFOs on, walking, and coming home kind of lots of pain in her hips and her knees and things. And we were just saying, no, just take the chair. It's there. It's a tool to help you. So what happened then, Lily saw what Aaron was doing, showed me on the video, and I was like, wow, that is cool. But at the same time, I don't know if I want you doing it. And so she asked me to make some little ramps in the back garden. And I kind of, at the time, I just thought, you know what, why not? There's a couple of bricks and a piece of plywood. And I did that on my BMX. And, why should we be stopping people with disabilities doing things just in case they hurt themselves? And well, I mean, that's a whole other story. I found out that people with disabilities are actually tougher than able-bodied people most of the time. It kind of encouraged her to do that. And then Lily said to us, can we go and see Aaron? Nitro Circus were touring in Llanelli in South Wales, not too far from where we live. So we went to see Aaron, and Lily wrote him a handwritten letter, and we gave that to a security guard who gave it to Aaron. And then lo and behold, he came and found us out and had a chat. So being a dad, I thought, well, I'll make myself a bit scarce here. I'll go and buy a drink and leave them to it, because I'm conscious about letting our kids grow up and do the things on their own. So I left them to it for a good 40 minutes. I came back and they were still chatting, and Lily kept in touch with him. So kind of rolled on a few more months, and Aaron posted up on his social media that he was having a new chair, and my wife, I think it was, posted up on social media, I know a little girl in Wales that would love to have that chair. So Aaron remembered Lily from the letter, and we kind of got in touch with him, and he sent it over, and that's really kind of the moment of while she'd been following what Aaron was doing and practicing in the back garden, it was kind of almost like made it legitimate then. I've got this chair and now can you take me to the skate parks? So
yeah, and that was when it all really kicked off. We just went down to one of the little skate parks, and like the first try I fell off right into this big concrete brick bollard thing. But that didn't stop me, it just made me want to do it more. And then I just got hooked on the sport. Although I didn't go back to that skate park again, I found better skate parks. But bigger ones, bigger ramps and stuff that like I liked more than that skate park. But like just have fun and had gained loads of confidence, and I eventually started going to school in my wheelchair, and I'm so glad I did that, because I don't think I'd be where I am today physically and mentally, and it was just been amazing.
So just to put a little bit of context in about skate parks, because I'm not sure whether you know about anything about skate parks.
No, I mean, I have a friend who at the moment he's just bought his first modified chair to go to do grinds and go to skate parks.
Yeah.
So it's something he has muscular dystrophy. So he's really interested. I mean, he's in his late 40s, so he's been through it all his life, and watched Aaron and been to see Aaron and speak with Aaron, but he's never tried it himself. So I mean, fantastic. Any time in your life that you can try something new, which is amazing.
Yeah. So like the UK skate park scene is really healthy. If you can remember back to kind of when ET came on telly, or in the cinema, that's when BMXs came out, and the skateboarding predated that. So we've actually got a good level of people of all ages riding, and there's peers at 60 years old that can incredible on skateboards in the UK. And then underneath that, we've got things like quite old facilities, which are just like metal ramps and things. And then we've also got like concrete skate parks being built, which are free to use. And a lot of these facilities are charity run. So they would be, a group of parents maybe would set up a committee and then try and access some funding, and then they'd be free to use outdoor skate parks. So they're set up as associations. And then we've got some indoor skate parks in the UK. And I would say, in terms of European standard, we've probably got the best skate parks in Europe.
Definitely, from like we've travelled around quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's been some good parks in the other countries, but like the level of them, not all of them. There's only been like one or two great ones in each country. Where here we've got lots.
So there's facilities for people starting right out, and that might just be a very like small scale skate park in your local area. Like 5 miles from your house in a park. Like sometimes they're in tennis courts, abandoned tennis courts. And then you've got some huge indoor facilities, like we've got up at Adrenaline Alley in Corby. And that's like the biggest indoor skate park in the world in terms of ramp coverage. So there's a huge level.
Yeah.
So if, just kind of for your friend that you spoke to, for him, he'd probably just want to go into a smaller skate park first to build up the confidence. And then kind of access into the bigger skate park. But during this time, there's an evolution of the character, because the confidence gets built. Because the scariest thing in the world is going to a skate park, because you feel it's really intimidating, because you can see all these skaters there doing fantastic tricks, or BMXers and scooter riders. But in fact, the hardest thing to do is just get onto the concrete or into the park. And once you get there, you'll actually realize that everybody's like, wow, this is really cool. You're in your wheelchair. Oh, and they want to know all about it. And then you're
sometimes even want to go then.
Yeah.
I've had so many friends at the skate park go flying in my wheelchair trying to do stuff that I did.
So it becomes an inclusive experience, as opposed to kind of other wheelchair sports where you just play with your colleagues in your wheelchair. This one's an integrated one. And like I said, because the history's there, WCMX, it's named kind of after BMX. Aaron named it, so that's why it's got the MX in it. And it just slots straight in, no problem at all. And then it's all about kind of fitting in with wearing the right clothes, the pads, the helmet, and all of that. It's all a confidence builder. And for me as a parent, I'm so grateful for what it's done to Lily in terms of just her confidence. And, from 13 years old and trying to deal with growing up and becoming a young woman, and also dealing with the disability on top of that, it's kind of like molded her in such a positive way that's why I'm 100% behind just spreading that message. And, you know, thankfully we have got other people starting to, you know, take the sport on and enjoy the benefits of it, you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
Kind of
No, absolutely, Mark. I mean, you know, it is a wonderful, you know, analogy to say that. And, you know, as I say, inclusion itself is so important now. And, you know, so it's brilliant to say that, you know, you can just go and do something and everybody accepts it. What I'm going to do now is hand over to Hannah and Owen. They've got a few questions for you, if you don't mind. So, Hannah, Owen, over to you. I'll leave it to you. This is Lily Rice and Mark Rice.
Thanks, Andy. Again, Lily, lovely to meet you.
You too.
To be honest, I have like so many questions because I'm just still astonished that you're 16 years old and you've achieved so much. I mean, I can't do a backflip, let alone a wheelchair, doing a backflip in a wheelchair. So, just how dangerous is it?
It's not dangerous at all, really. Obviously, when you're going for big things, when you're at like top level, then it can get dangerous. But we make sure we do it as safe as possible, especially when we're with all the kids, coaching them at the events we do. We want to make it a safe and loving environment for everyone to join in, whatever level they are. So it's only really dangerous when you go try crazy things, but otherwise you have spotters around you and friends that will make sure you won't fall in and injure yourself.
Okay. Would you agree with that, Dad?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as Lily said, you know, we've got a small community of WCMX riders. We held the first jam up in Adrenaline Alley last year, and we had, I think the age range was 4 to 44, and we had around about 40 participants. And it's such a shame that, you know, the coronavirus has kicked off, because we were all set to run the second event in Manchester at Greystone Action Sports. So we're still hoping to run that event once we're allowed to. But it's, you know, it's as dangerous as you want it to be, but we don't want to put anybody off. And it's that feeling of being included that I feel is so important. And, you know, if this, like, you can imagine, are you a wheelchair user yourself?
No, I'm not, no.
Oh, right. Well, I was just going to say, like, everyday surfaces outside, they're quite rough, aren't they? You know, the texture of the tarmac, etc., and pavements with slabs and things. You can imagine these skate parks are so smooth, because skateboard wheels are small. So these things, and it's almost like the kids fly around, and the indoor parks are all wooden, so they're even smoother. And it's just lovely to watch the kids use the flow of the skate park to create a line around, and it's quite graceful. And so what we do is just encourage them to do whatever's within their capability, you know, and obviously people have different disabilities. And if it means that there has to be a spotter or a parent there just to kind of be in a supportive role. I mean, I should imagine once the sport gets more established and clubs are set up around the country, those roles will be taken over by more professional, kind of professionally trained people. But it's a bit grassroots at the moment, so it's our role as parents just to kind of encourage, or friends, you know, like as you alluded to, Andy, with your friend that's a little bit older. You know, he might initially just need somebody there just to help him, but once he's made his friends at the skate park, and if he networks in with the older guys, he'll, you know, the older lot, they just want to go for a beer afterwards, just like any other sport.
Absolutely,
so, yeah. So, you know, for him, it could be just like, oh, every Tuesday they meet at the skate park. So he'll once he's kind of found his little niche there, he'll be away, you know. And so it's not too dangerous. It's as dangerous as you want it to be, you know. And it's about, you can't go from A to Z. You know, you've got to build up. But that's the same with any other sport, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you've kind of briefly mentioned this, Lily. It was 13 when you originally came across this new sport. What was it that really grabbed you, that really caught your attention and made you want to do it?
I don't know, really. Like, when I was younger, I tried out like skateboarding, BMX, scootering, but like, no, I didn't really get hooked on them, but I always had like a bit of an interest with them. Like, now and again, I'd watch videos like that on YouTube. So when I came across WCMX, obviously it was a lot different. I guess because it was someone who had a disability that was doing it as well, because you don't really tend to see many people with disabilities riding like skateboard, scooters or BMXs, although now they're starting to get more popular. But when I was at that age, it wasn't like a big thing. So I was really surprised when I saw it, and it was a neon green wheelchair. Like, I tell you, if you have a neon green wheelchair sitting in front of you, you're not gonna not look at it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, and then my final question. Clearly, your dad is really, really supportive of this. Who else in your life has been really supportive to make sure that, I mean, like I said, you've achieved so much in such a short amount of time. Yeah, who else has supported you along the way?
Obviously, there's been like my dad and the rest of my family that have supported me. My nan actually watched me ride for the first time the other day, and she said it wasn't as bad as she thought it would have been. Yeah, but my friends at school, they've been really supportive. They're always like, oh, it's really cool, you're going out here to skate here, blah, blah, blah. And then all the community at all different skate parks I've been to as well. Obviously, we keep in touch through social media, and the whole girls skateboarding and BMX scene has been really good as well.
Yeah. Right, thank you. Right, Owen, over to you.
Hi there, it's a pleasure to meet you both. I've got a question about Wales really to start off with. So all of my family are from Wales. You're Welsh Young Sports Person of the Year. What does it feel like to represent Wales and the UK at these amazing events? And how do you feel that you fit in alongside the great history of all Welsh sports people in the past?
Yeah, it was really amazing to represent my country. It's really funny when I go out places and everyone says I'm from London. I always have to correct them and say, no, I'm Welsh. But yeah, it was amazing. Back in 2018, I was the first British person to go to the WCMX World Championships. So that was really cool. They were all like stoked to have someone from a new country come out and ride with them. Yeah, it's just really amazing to represent your country, really.
Just to add on to that, we took a Union Jack flag and our little Welsh flag as well.
They let us hang it off on the
back. So it was lovely to see, you know, as the sport grows, all the different nations that are attending. Last summer was the World Championships took place in Germany, in Cologne. And there were 4 UK participants that went to that. 5, was it? Yeah. Oh, sorry. So there was some of the younger people came. One of the older guys wanted to come, but unfortunately wasn't well enough to attend. So yeah, so you know, like we say, small seeds. Slowly, it's maturing, and we can come on and tell you some of the things we're involved with, kind of to get the sport to the next level. Right at the end, they'll tell you about that.
Okay. Fantastic. And you're obviously an extremely busy person with all of the sport that you're involved in. How have you juggled your sporting stardom and your studies?
Yeah, it's been quite hard. I'm lucky that my school's really supportive and they'll give me work to do when I go out of the country or to go other places. Obviously now we're in lockdown, everyone knows about like Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams and all that kind of stuff. So I was using that like when I was going away and I was set work online, and then I was also given work on paper. Yeah, the school have just been great with it all. It's been quite difficult when it came up to my GCSEs. I missed a few of my year 10 GCSEs because I was out in America competing, but I knew I would be able to resit them this year, although I haven't actually been able to now. But it's like they've been really good with it all.
Fantastic. I teach at a mainstream school in Birmingham, Clifton Primary, but we've got a lot of parasport competitors at the school, and we're really thoroughly behind the whole inclusion process, attending a myriad of parasport events in Birmingham. What would be your one piece of advice to a child? We've got children under 11 in how to follow their dreams and pursue a career in parasport.
I think you shouldn't be afraid to dream big. Like, dream big and just go for it. Like, stay doing what you're comfortable doing, but like do what you want to do, and don't let the people who are saying, oh, you can't do this well in sport, you won't succeed in sport, just prove them wrong, show them that you can, just work hard to reach your goals and you'll get there eventually.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and the only thing I'd maybe ask is possibly in the future, in the build up to Birmingham Commonwealth Games, you maybe come to Birmingham and visit us and we can say hello.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. Thanks, Hannah. Okay, Lily. So, I mean, you know, fantastic conversation. I mean, you're talking about what you've done, the accolades and anything else, but what is your favourite moment or achievement? Is there more than one?
Definitely winning the 2019 World Championships. That was my main achievement. I felt really proud when they announced that I was the world champion, and that was just an amazing feeling that I'd love to experience again. I guess when we did the first WCMX and Adaptive Skate Jam in the UK as well, that was really awesome because obviously we had loads of people riding WCMX there, and it was great to see all these kids, like just how much they improved throughout the day, and also the new people that had never ridden before riding ramps and doing things that they never thought they would have been able to do.
Yeah, if I just kind of chip in there as well, obviously the Olympics this year has been postponed and hopefully it'll go ahead next year. But in terms of the values, the Olympic values is all about, and the Paralympic values, you know, they're all about inclusion and, you know, well, you know what they are. But for the first time, they added skateboarding and BMX in. That's what I'm really alluding to. But they didn't do a Paralympic equivalent. So we've kind of teamed up with USA Skateboarding now. We're the only non-Americans on an adaptive skateboard committee. And the idea is that we want to grow the sport and adaptive skateboarding too. So WCMX has now got or has now been included as part of USA Skate or part of skateboarding. And over the next few years, you're going to see more inclusivity at skateboarding events. So there's a tour of skateboarding events that go around, and WCMX is seen as kind of like chair skating. And then there's also there's adaptive skating as well. And so these are people either using crutches to ride a skateboard or sitting on a skateboard. And
or
doing
some
trips.
of them are amputees and some of them are blind as well.
Yeah, and of course, the blind skaters. So what we'd like to do on this side of the pond is kind of encourage the development of people and the confidence of people to come to skate parks. We also, I mean, perhaps you want to talk about accessibility as well at skate parks. So, you know, I'll let Lily talk about the accessibility.
Yeah. Obviously, like we drive past skate parks, most days you'll probably see a skate park and think, oh, it's a skate park, and carry on with your day. But a lot of these skate parks aren't designed too great, and some are designed really well, but they don't think about it in mind. As a wheelchair user, obviously there are some things like steep slopes. No matter how strong you'll be, you'll find a steep slope hard to get up to, or like steps, going up and down steps. Some people can find that quite difficult. And a lot of skate parks actually have steps to go up to get onto the like main platform of the skate park, or they'll have like a big grass or mud area with no path to get to it. I'm lucky that my local skate park's been really well built, so it's actually pretty accessible, and I was really lucky to have that there, especially when I was riding. But yeah, we just want to spread the message across to all the skate park creators all over the world that we'd love to work with you and like help make the skate parks more accessible so that wheelchair users and adaptive skaters can get on top of ramps easier and get out of bowls easier. And just so the skate park works a bit better. It doesn't need to be easy to get around, it just makes a few of those challenges a bit easier.
Yeah, so I think accessibility is a massive thing, especially coming down to disability in everyday life. Anyway, I mean, talking about obviously rural and inner city, is there a big difference between skate parks in the city and rural?
Not really. I mean, there's the same few skate park builders all over the world, and they're all doing them everywhere. I guess there's probably more space out rural to make bigger skate parks, but then there's more money in the cities to also make bigger skate parks. So
yeah,
they're all similar.
Go on, carry on. Sorry. Well, I was going to say, I mean, obviously talking about the Paralympics and the future. When I spoke to Aaron, he said it's something that he's possibly to look to do and get WCMX into the Paralympics. What is your goal or aim at the moment for the future now? Obviously, you're world champion, women's world champion. You've done the first female to do a wheelchair backflip in Europe. I mean, what is your goal or aim now to move forward?
Yeah, I've just got a main few goals that kind of stay in the same way. It's just like keep riding well, push yourself to like not to your limit, but like learn new tricks as often as possible, keep growing the skate park community for WCMX and adaptive skate in the UK and all over the world, and just continue to inspire people, really.
Will we ever see Lily Rice on a 50-foot ramp like Aaron?
Maybe. I'd really like to ride that ramp at Nitro Circus. We were actually, last weekend, we were meant to be hanging out with the guys from there, but now it's got
right, okay.
Yeah. Nitro Circus was coming to Cardiff as part as the Nitro World Games.
Nitro World Games.
So we've done some work with Nitro Circus, so we're quite kind of well networked with them now, and so we were kind of looking at it. I mean, it's a huge ramp. But
I'd like to do it.
It is. Yeah, it looks. It probably. Yeah, I don't know. The jury's out with Dad. I just.
It is a difficult one. When I spoke to Aaron and bless him, he's such a character, and he said, and I said to him, "What do you actually practice?" He said, "No, I just get up there and I just go for it." And I think that's the philosophy that you have to go with in WCMX, to be fair. It's a lot of just go for it and try it, and if it doesn't, you try again.
Visualize it in your head and then tell yourself you're going to land it and go for it, pretty much.
Have confidence in yourself and your equipment as well is a big thing. You know, if you know that you're feeling confident. So you did some work for your P about sports psychology, didn't you, or something? Yeah, I can't remember. You were telling me about it, visualization and all of that kind of thing. So just, you know, it would be great if you could have the facilities. In fact, Manchester, I don't know if you've seen any of Lily's videos, and there, just mention that there is actually a BBC One half-hour segment coming out called Our Lives in a couple of weeks. It might be on tonight. It might be a Wednesday night feature. Okay. Oh, Thursday night.
No, it is Wednesday.
Is it? Oh. Just go and check. They've done two. There's an Irish dancing. There was stone skimming last week, and one of those is follows Lily's journey. And Manchester, the ramp there is...
I want to say it's 27 feet, but I don't know. I feel like 27 just rings something in my head. But it's big, it's big.
Yeah, I think that might be the biggest in Europe. So that's a really big roll-in into a big foam pit. So you've done that a few times. So you'll see that on that as part of that documentary.
Okay. I mean, you talk about, I mean, you go into schools and you do a lot of keynote speaking. I mean, what's your advice to, especially talking about inclusion now and why it's so important, what's your advice to young people with wheelchair users with a disability to, as I say, Owen said, follow their dreams? I mean, you go into schools and they must think, wow, this is unbelievable. So what would you say to somebody, how do they find those pathways?
I guess you can, obviously there's stuff on social media, so you can look at all my social media, so Lily Rice _WCMX. But like I said before, follow your dreams and believe in yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about sorry, Mark.
I was just going to say about the social media. I think that's an important thing to touch on as well, is that because it's all these skate parks, you don't have, you can have dedicated coaching sessions, but most of them are just peer review. You go with your mates. There's a little boy from Dylan from Peterborough, and we met him, introduced him to the sport, and we met him a few times actually, and I had a phone call from his dad saying that he'd been included in a scooter party there. So whereas children in the classroom hadn't really kind of bothered with him much and he felt quite isolated, all of a sudden, because he had his wheelchair, he got one of these specific WCMX chairs. All of a sudden he was included, and he's got a bunch of friends now, and that was a nice little story to hear. Yeah,
there's been lots of little success stories from around the UK with the WCMX riders, being very shy and not talking. There's just one boy we met, and he wouldn't talk. He was very shy, and he just was really quiet. And then we met him a few months on since he got his WCMX chair, and he was a completely different kid. He was constantly bugging me. He was like, Lily, look at this trick I've learned and all this, and it was just great to see that.
So just linking back to the social media, because it's peer reviewed, you practice your tricks and you just put your very basics. So even if you just practice in doing a wheelie, people will put that up, and then the positive kind of comments you get then is encouraging to go back and try it again, and maybe try it for a little bit longer, or try it in a different way. And so you might not necessarily be able to get to the skate park every day. You know, maybe you can just get there once a week or once a fortnight. But once you start accessing into that social media community, what you'll find then is all people all over the world, your age or older, all trying things. And you know, it's a bit like the modern version of a pen friend then, if you know what I mean, because you'll be friends. And that's the thing, when we went out to America for the very first time, daunting to go traveling again, because you know, it's kind of nerve-wracking anyway.
Well.
But we got there, drove on for the first time, drove on the wrong side of the road, but we just cracked on and did it. And when we got there, we felt like we knew everybody because we've been following them on social media, and everybody was like, "Oh wow, it's really nice to see you." And straight away the ice was broken. And I think that's the benefit of, you know, there's lots of negative things about social media, but in our life that was such a helpful tool. So that's another thing for people to think about, is once you kind of start going, perhaps just reach out to us and we can link you up with, or Lily can certainly link you up with other people in other countries, and then you can see what's really going on, and that'll kind of set the fire in the belly to practice some tricks then.
I think you're right. I think the idea, especially with inclusion sport and disability sports, it is about that bonding together, and talking about social media. You know, it is kind of the idea of like supporting each other in that way to get more people to understand what we actually do. Thinking about motivation and inspiration, and obviously we're in challenging times with lockdown and people in isolation, and you know, in some respects, you know, we have a lot of isolation on a regular basis anyway. But you know, in these challenging times, people need that, you know, that extra motivation, inspiration. What would your message be to support people who are struggling at the moment, or have that anxiety because they're stuck at nothing to do? What would you say to NHS workers and the key workers at the moment?
I think like you can get through this. It's only temporary. We're all here and we're all going to work together to get through this, so everything can go back to normal or even better than it used to be.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking on the brighter side that we're kind of coming through the end of it. Looking around the world now, it looks like it's kind of starting to tail off, and you know, there's risk attached to everything in life, isn't there? I mean, we could cross the road and get run over by a bus, and yet we don't think about that, do we? We put mechanisms in place. We look left and right. We look and we listen and we cross the road safely. And I think we just need to have some of those measures. Whether that means masks or gloves for some people, if that helps them with confidence, or anything else that just helps people. But if I'm honest, I've struggled with my mental health as well. I think we all have. I think we'd be crazy to ignore the fact that this lockdown hasn't been good for the majority of people in the UK. But on the positive, we've had quite good weather, and let's just hope that things improve and that we can all get back outside and start socializing, because we are social people, aren't we, human beings? So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to take time, but we'll get there.
And my final question, if you could think of a quote to support motivation and inspiration, what would that quote be and why?
I've actually already got a quote, and it's, you can do anything you want to, you just have to put your mind to it or do it differently. And I think that's really good, because it shows no matter what situation you're in, you can get through it, you can do it. You may have to do it differently to other people, you may have to find your own way to get around it, but you can do it and you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, it's adapting to the situation, and we've talked quite a lot on the term disability. It's like I certainly feel that Lily's grown up. She's the next generation of sporting people in the UK, and she's grown up watching the Paralympics and the Invictus Games and so on and so forth. And to term it disability in nowadays, I think is a negative thing. It's you can't do something. And I think adaptive sport is a much better kind of terminology, put a bit more of a positive spin on it. And, I'd love to see that name change officially at some point in the future.
I totally agree. I mean, I think now, disability doesn't define who you are. you know, you can push your limits and be, you know, whatever you want to be. So inclusion sports or adaptive sports, I think that's a better way to go, because, you know, at the end of the day, we're all trying to move forward and be active together, and that supports our mental health, our health and well-being, and also in our daily lives as well.
Yeah.
Liddy Rice, it's a pleasure to meet you. You
It's
know,
been a pleasure speaking to you
no,
too.
thank you so much. And Mark, a pleasure to meet you. Please,
Thank you
any
very
link,
much.
please send, and I'll send them out to our audiences and our social media groups, because I'm sure somewhere there'll be loads of young people who would like to participate in wheelchair motocross.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if this lockdown, once this lockdown is, or once the virus is all kind of sorted out, we'll be running the
All over the place.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the main goal for us is to get this WCMX and adaptive skate jam back up and running. So we'll be engaging with all the various sporting bodies just to promote the new date, and it'll be at Greystone Action Sports. They've actually changed some of the steps, so they've made some modifications.
Recently they've just made it adapted. They've already had a lift, so you could go up to their restaurant bit instead of going up the stairs. But now they've just removed the stairs and put a ramp there.
Yeah.
So that wheelchair users can get onto the skate park easier.
So yeah, as soon as this is done, we want to get up there and we want to encourage as many people to come and join us. And it's just, you know, to put it out there, it's not a competition. It is a jam, and we feel that we're not ready to run a competition, and people will be scared about a competition. This is just a jam. We'll run it as safely as we can with 1 or 2 people on the course at a time. We've got a bunch of spotters, and we've got some chairs if people want to try them out. And it's just to encourage the community to grow. And I'm sure at some point with Skateboard England, which is like the governing body in the UK, once we kind of get our you know, we're talking to those guys all the time, but it's kind of getting the model in, and then we'll jump in with them. And when they have their national championships, there will be a competition, but it's just to get the numbers going first. You know? Amazing.
I mean, as I say, I think it's such a great adaptive sport, and something that, you know, young people can be involved in so much. I mean, we'd love to invite you over into Birmingham and see what you can do, and you know, and obviously talk to you face to face and show us everything about WCMX. It's, you know, as I say, it's such a pleasure, and I hope they get an invite to come over and see your jam as well. So it'd be a pleasure.
Yeah,
all right,
definitely.
No worries. You take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye. Stay safe.
Bye. Thank you.